Hello everyone, this is your host, Gemma, bringing health and wellness conversations from North Idaho and across this region. I am so excited to chat with the entrepreneurs, creatives, and believers as we journey together to connect more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. Cheers to shining bright and supporting local. Hello everyone, this is your host, Gemma. For today's interview, I am talking with Brady, the owner of Brady Campbell Photography. As I was cruising Google for photographers to help kick off my legitimacy in the life coaching world, I came across Brady and his tagline, "A passion for people." And I immediately was hooked because I have shared the same passion for people. So now, after getting to experience his magical talents and making my awkward self feel very fabulous in front of the camera, thank you, Brady, I am thrilled that I get to chat with him a little bit more about his search for passion of people and his quest for being real. So welcome, Brady. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So you mentioned in your tagline, and I've talked to you a little bit about this, but passion for people and passion to connect with people. So what does that really mean for you?
It has evolved quite a bit. So way back when in the land of marriage, I was married for a very long time. And when I noticed that I had this skill set with the camera and it was giving me this ability to get close to people, I also had this overwhelming need to be validated. So it was kind of a hand-in-hand deal. I wasn't, what I didn't feel like I was getting in my marriage or what I was lacking in life, I got from clients. So it was being proved to me that, the camera was making people happy. I was making people were happy and they were validating me and affirming me. And so I think back then my passion to connect was more selfish than it is now.
Yeah.
But, I needed to go through all of that, like everything that led me here and all the ways that passion has evolved. I needed to go through it. So passion for people and to connect was more of a validating deal back then. And now I've refined it. And I feel like now I'm able to give back, to all the people that I genuinely took from. It was awesome. It was mutually beneficial.
Well, and I think too, though, like in this human experience, like Brene Brown always says it so well, that we're meant for connection and community. And so whether you feel like you're giving more at one point or they're giving more, like I think just that connection with people in general, the connection, the one-on-one, and you get to do it face-to-face. You're not doing it via Zoom, which is a whole nother level of meaningfulness, right? I'm curious because I love your story about being in photography, then being in finance. And will you give us just a little synopsis of like, you started in photography, you circled kind of around, and then you came back to photography. Will you tell us that story, just kind of high level?
Yeah. I got into photography by a mishap. I was just trying to be close to my girlfriend when I was 18 years old. And so I worked at this camera shop close to her. And that was really all it took. My boss gave me a camera, put it in my hand and said, go out and take some photos with this camera and show what it can do so we can sell it. Yeah. So took that camera out for 1 week and never put down a camera again. I was in love. So I went from that to being offered a job at this pro camera shop downtown, worked there for like a year. And then some studio owner just scooped me out of there. He liked my personality, said he could teach me photography. And so I went and worked for him for 4 or 5 years and learned the ins and outs of the technical side of photography, which was really, really great. I also was kind of building a business there too. I was making friends, and these clients weren't just clients to me, even though they were like it was his business. I kind of saw myself taking over his business at some point.
Love it.
And then it came to a point where I kind of just, made as much as I was going to make there. And so I had to move out on my own. And when I moved out on my own, just out of pure survival, I did everything that I saw him do, and I did it exactly the way I saw him do it because I'd been programmed. This is how you run a photography business, and I did that for a year and a half. And quite frankly, I hated it. I hated doing high volume, mediocre quality. And I'm not saying that's what he was doing, but that's kind of how I felt what I was doing. I bought gear that I could afford when I opened up the business. I think I opened that whole business on $5,000.
Wow.
On a credit card. Yeah. So it was a very lean business.
Yeah.
But it took right off, and it made really good money. And, if money was my motivation, I would still be doing that. But after that year and a half, I just, I had an opportunity to go down to San Diego and try financial planning. So the guy that hired me ended up saying, you're young enough to bounce back if this doesn't work, but you would be a fool not to take me up on this chance. So I sold everything and moved to my wife and 3 kids down to San Diego. And maybe 5 days into it, I knew that I hated it. I was like, yep, I hate this, like legitimately. Yeah. But in all fairness, I gave it a real shot, and I wanted to give it a year just to, see if I liked it better, or if I could modify the way that this guy was running his financial practice. Because the way he was running it he was a very different personality. So I would have ran mine very differently. So doing it his way, I would have been miserable forever. But anyway, so I gave it a shot. And I had a lot of great meetings and a year of cold calling. And I learned a lot of tools that I can use throughout the rest of my life. But, there was a day 10 months later that I kind of just felt this release, like, okay, you tried it. Now you can go.
Yeah.
So I was gone. I literally got on the internet, bought another camera, bought a computer, probably as cheap as they come. And I started shooting down in San Diego and just immediately felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So.
No, I love this story so much though, because I think so many people, you're so lucky to have found like something you're so passionate about at such a young age. But I think we all go through those aspects of life, whether it's career or whatever, where you're like, I've been doing this for so long. Should I try something else? Like you kind of feel pulled by external factors or even your own mindset, right? And then you're like, okay, let me go try it. And then coming back to, what am I doing? Get back on track, get back to what like really brings you joy. And I'm sure when you came back to it, it probably solidified like photography in a whole new way for you. Is that right?
It was completely different. So I definitely wanted to protect the way that I felt day one going back to it. I knew I wanted to protect that feeling forever. I didn't want to go back to feeling like I was a slave to anything or like I had to do it, So I told my wife at the time, I'm going to be a starving artist. I'm not going to take every job. I'm going to do this the way that I want to do it. And don't know if that'll work out, but it's the only way that I can pick up this camera and do this again. Yeah. So I did. So when I opened up, I made maybe half as much as the first year that I had, Yeah. But I was like, okay, this is a little bit of a financial struggle, but I'm happy. And then year 2, it increased. I was like, yeah, I'm still happy. And then I remember 8 years into it again, I'm like, okay, I like this as much as I did day 1. And I'm making far more money. It's not a lot, trust me, but it's, far more than it was. Yeah. That little number turned into a little bigger number.
Right. No,
and, sure. But I remember thinking, I was glad that I went this approach and protected my passion for it instead of just making a career out of it, which essentially it became a career.
Right.
Through my passion. So I'm not saying that works out that way for everybody, but for me, it's my foundation was way stronger doing it this way. Yeah. And if I would shoot too many things that weren't going to like fill my soul or fill up my energy cup or whatever, then I wouldn't end up doing it the next year. So I kind of just make sure I always keep a healthy balance of doing things for me and doing things for them, but enough for me to where I still want to do it next year.
Yeah. I think I find it so inspiring because I think with a lot of things in life, like the human journey again is younger in life, we're doing things because we're told we should, or because we're following other people, which I think is part of us getting on our journey and figuring out who we are and what makes us tick and what we want from life. But then when we circle back, we're both midlife, right? You circle back and you're like, I get to choose it for me. Like I'm choosing this stuff for me one way or another, right? Some stuff we get rid of, other things you're like, no, I'm choosing this. And then to be able to make it into a business with boundaries and you have pieces that you love and pieces that you're like, I don't love it, but it makes some money. Like it's just so reflective of this like self-discovery, like human journey. And I just love it.
It is awesome. So you're on the same path.
I'm trying to be. I think these conversations that just light me up. I mean, we were talking before this, right? Like I'm surrounded by in another world of like corporate America, but having these conversations through the podcast and being able to life coach where I'm like, this is what makes me tick. And this is what makes me work a few hours extra a day, because I know really this is the direction that my heart wants to go. So
and I feel like it replenishes. I mean, right. You go out and take time doing this, and it actually is probably going to become work for you, but it replenishes you when you are just open and vulnerable, and you have a real, legit, true human connection with somebody. You get filled up, even if you are expending all this energy. I mean, I feel tired from talking to people. You know, if I do it all day, I'm exhausted at the end of the day.
Right.
But if there was any moments in there that I could slip in some real conversations like this, and I mean real to where we're both being real,
right?
That energy exchange is a replenisher. It does not. I don't think it depletes even the introverts.
No, I completely agree.
Who knows? Introverts get depleted very easily.
I'm going to take this down a complete rabbit hole, but I'm reading a book right now, and it's talking about the vagus nerve, which basically connects our brain to our gut and our heart. So we've got the three brains that can be stimulated, and it basically proves that we're not just living from our head. Like our gut has a whole thing connected to our immunity and our heart and connection and love. So once the vagus nerve gets stimulated through real connection, and it said even with people like at an airport, if you're you just have that moment of looking in, and you're smile, which I love doing. I love smiling with random strangers, and I can feel it. I'm it feels awesome. And you're strengthening that vagus nerve, which then ultimately helps your health overall, mind, body, soul. And I just read that the other day, and I'm yes, I feel it. The connection that you have with people when it's meaningful, even for a moment, you can feel it strengthen.
Where was the third brain? You said in your gut, in your head, and where else?
Your heart.
In your heart. So
yeah.
Okay, because I've always thought it was funny when people say they love people from their heart. I'm no, I mean that's really just pumping blood, But you're really loving them from your your head. But now we can say we love them all the way down to our guts. That's
yeah.
Cool.
Well, and I think the basis for it was those three places have so many neuroreceptors, so they really are talking to each other and spreading the messages across your body from very different, your mind is obviously associated to your brain, but your heart is more that compassion and the people piece. And then your gut is, for the most part, your immunity lives in your gut. So anyway.
That's cool. That's a good piece. I like that.
I've been looking to share some with that. So here you go.
I have an overstimulated vagus nerve.
Helps your health.
Yeah,
so
hopefully.
I'm interested because you as a photographer get to see people and hold space for people in a way that I honestly, the more I think about it, is very much like coaching, in letting people see themselves in a way that they probably haven't seen themselves before. So I'm curious, from behind the camera, how you've observed people and how you work with them to just make them feel comfortable. Because I had so much anxiety coming in to see you. I am the worst in front of a camera, and you just made it so comfortable. And I'm just curious your experience behind the camera and observing humanity. Big question.
That is a big question. Because I have several conversations with myself while I'm dealing with somebody. I'm having one conversation verbally. I'm having another conversation where I'm observing their body language, and I have another conversation where I'm observing mine and how I'm portraying myself.
Yeah.
So I'm having all of these things happen at once. And you could even argue to say that I'm not really there, because I'm really working on something greater than the conversation I'm verbally having with that person. But I watch them. I can see, somebody's insecurities come out very, very quickly. So I obviously have to watch for those. And I try not to address those too much. I try to blanket it. I know them. I see them. I feel them, their insecurities, but I'm going to work around those silently. I'm not going to bring them up. We're not going to address them, but I know they're there.
Yeah. So
I do a lot of observing that way. And I would say that most people that come in say they're not photogenic, and they're very nervous about it. So that's something I hear 99% of the shoots that I have. So it's no surprise to me, that everybody's nervous to do it.
Yeah.
I also need to get in there and have I need to pay somebody to photograph me, because I have not been vulnerable on that side.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some sort of disservice that I'm telling people to do this thing that I won't do.
But there's something about you though that like somehow you're connecting with people, not somehow, I mean, you're obviously open and talkative and you get to the heart of what makes people tick. That
So you're right. I'm not going deep enough with this, am I?
No,
I
you're
am to get more inside of this. I am curious about people. I am very curious. So when I show up to any relationship, including yours and mine, I'm curious. So when you go out into the world and connecting with people in a curious manner, you have, I mean, it's almost like superpowers, but you're not doing anything. You want to absorb these interactions and these people, and you want to learn about humanity. And I want to learn about people's like specific stories, like their individual stories, how they got to where they got, and why, when we took completely separate paths through life, how we are so the same.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I've observed about people. And I feel like I have a good amount of stats now with, I've been shooting for over 20 years, thousands of people in, different cultures and some different languages and different upbringings and different financial statuses and different hardships and all these things. And I've realized that we're all the same. And that is a too blanketed of a statement for somebody that's all been stuck in North Idaho forever, to say, but we all bleed the same. We all have like the same human weaknesses, and we're all susceptible to insecurities and worries and fears and all these things. So we should be able to enter into every single interaction with more compassion. Empathy. We should, because they're no different. I mean, essentially.
Right. No, I love that.
I have observed that people are looking for reasons to be angry. And so that's disheartening a little bit. I feel like they're looking for a dumping ground because they have all of this stuff they haven't worked through, they haven't processed. They don't know how to get the stuff that's in here out. Yes. And so anger is something I'm very familiar with. I've been angry my whole life, so I understand what anger is like, the reason for it. It just covers things up. It kind of dumps things like temporarily onto other people. Yeah. It doesn't stay like that. It's not sustaining, but it feels good in the moment to like just get angry and dump, because I got all this stuff I don't know how to deal with.
Right.
So I'm going to yell at you and I need you to deal with it. So.
Oh my gosh, so many nuggets. Yes, because the human experience, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. But thinking about, where was my brain going?
Were you going on the track of the anger and the dumping, or that we're all the same, or were you spinning off some? The
anger was good. The self-reflection, I think that you and I have both been on, obviously, for a long time, is it's not anything that's part of our culture. We're never really taught that anger is a projection onto other people. Anger is kind of a numbing.
It's like a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
It's really a cover-up.
It's like,
it's valid. It's
right.
like
totally
it's a signal valid. That says something's wrong. Something is wrong.
Right. And I think that's where with any emotion, you feel it in yourself, but understanding that you're the one that's in control of that, and tapping to what's going on inside of me. So you're not projecting it onto everybody and the world around you. Right. And I think that this is where I was going, is that the human race, I knew I'd come back to it. But in general, right now, we're so polarized. Like, they want to put people on one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. But really, I mean, on that same vein of like being willing to do the self-work and realizing that we are a human race. And you don't have to think the same things and believe the same things as other people, but at the core of who we are, like, we want to be loved, we want to be valued, we want to feel like we're contributing. And that piece right now feels lost. And I think part of it is because these aren't conversations that we ever have. Like, I think they should be happening. I don't know where they'd be happening. School? I don't know. But somewhere a lot younger, where we're like, those emotions that you're feeling is normal. Like, you can feel anger and frustration. Just don't lash out at the world. Like, you need to do some inner work. And because someone thinks differently than you doesn't mean they're evil. Like, they have a different experience, a different background, different parents, different everything. That curiosity piece, And going back to like having these conversations, what makes people tick? Why have they gotten to where they are? I'm just curious about that, because of course it's logical in their lived experience, and our lived experience is different to get us to a different conclusion. So
you just, do we have, I mean, tell me if we already have this, but do we have any like self-discovery classes? Like I'm thinking, I was just picturing while you were talking that we have an instructor all growing up, elementary school, junior high, high school, that's just telling every single person in that room the same information. Right. You know, they're just talking at them.
Right.
But I wonder if there could be any courses where it's like, we're going to learn about you. You're going to learn about you. And when you leave school, you're going to have a sense of purpose. That was one thing I was lacking in my life. I didn't know what my purpose was. And when you are purposeless, and that doesn't mean a direction as far as a career. It could for somebody. Right. My purpose is connection and self-acceptance.
Yeah.
That's my purpose right now. So I feel like that's a direction enough for me to where I feel very, very like I walk into every room a little lighter now. I feel like when you have that direction, and I think all these kids are lacking this, you know, they get out of school and they're like, okay, so what job do I get into? It's like, well, I don't know. Who are you? And they're like, well, I don't know yet. You know, it would be nice if we had conditioned people from a very young age to ask these questions, just to ask questions about themselves.
Exactly.
Why am I angry? Why am I just in survival mode? Why am I not thriving? Why am I angry all the time? Why am I crying? Why? I don't know.
I've thought about
ask these questions because
sorry, I was just going to say with like midlife crisis, like I think like midlife crisis is a thing, right? But I'm like, I think it's up until that point where following other people, like you will go to school and you will learn about X, Y, and Z from a person with a very specific worldview. And then you will go to college or something and get a job and then have kids and 2.5 kids, you know, and then in midlife, we're like, we have been on someone else's path. We've been on our culture's path for so long. And then we're like, this isn't working. Like, who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? And it's in midlife where it like all comes crashing down. We're like, no more. I know there has to be something bigger than this. And I guess for me, that would mean I had a midlife crisis much earlier, but just exactly what you're saying, that like self-discovery journey and who are you? Like, what are your talents? What are your strengths? What makes you tick? It's not a conversation that I wasn't ever taught or didn't have a class around it either. You know, I think luckily I somehow was wired this way to be curious. And
that's how I feel too. I was kind of just wired this way too. But I'm very visual. So even as you were talking, I was imagining that picture, you know, of just all of us on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And then there's these people that are ultimately free. That is freedom. And they're off the conveyor belt, just like holding up their hands saying like, hey, get off, come with me, you know, get off of there, you know, and hopefully you have somebody in your life that pulls you off that conveyor belt and shows you what it could be to be ultimately free. It doesn't mean you're not still going to go after that same career, but you're not just following, you're not just, you know, being led down a path of the societal norm, which I honestly is like a dirty word to me, but I'm a free spirit. Don't tell me what to do or where to go. I might go there, but don't tell me to.
Yeah. Well, and I think I told you too, that my shift it wasn't that I didn't like what I was doing. Like you know, after going to college and blah, blah, blah. And even right now, but the shift was from lack to abundance. Like I felt like I was living from lack and like, oh, this is a burden and oh, this is too much and I'm not good enough, and doing things to be validated by other people, by my workplace, to like fit norms, I guess, looking back to it. And now it's from a place of abundance of like, this is who I am. This is what I have to offer the world. This is how I want to show up in a positive, giving way. And when I need to set boundaries to look after myself and honor myself, I'm going to do it because I know that my life is not supposed to be on autopilot and drained and exhausted and just on the conveyor belt. Like you said, I don't want to be on the conveyor belt.
You're back to the midlife crisis thing. Once you realize you're like, so I've expended this amount of time, like struggling and worrying and trying to live normal and trying to compare myself. And, you know, you're living from a lack of, and then you're like, I have a short amount of time left. So there is a shift. There's a shift. And some people have it very early on.
Right.
I have photographed seniors for 20 years, like graduating seniors.
Right.
And some of these 17-year-olds, I mean, they come in, I'm like, you know who you are. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know who you are, you know what you want out of life, and you're 17.
Right.
I didn't know which way was up. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable. They're gonna,
Yeah.
I just think they're gonna have a very full life,
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and I think even just like raising Beckett, raising kids, right? I'm like, I'm already looking at his human design, like he's a manifester. And I'm like, no, understanding who my child is so that I can support and guide that rather than direct it onto the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And I don't think even that conversation happens I mean, I don't know. At this point in life, I'm like, I don't want all the external content. I feel pretty good about how I'm living life, and I'm just going to keep doing until it proves itself otherwise. But as a parent,
things change.
Yeah, totally.
Curious people love change, though. It's like, which directions it's going to go later.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, for
But
sure.
living in your purpose can change, 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I think can just like evolve.
Totally, like we do as human beings based on the experiences that we're having. Yeah.
Oh, I do love when, partnerships say, we grew apart. Like, I mean, I kind of feel like we all grow in different directions. You can still be with those people, I believe. You could.
Right.
I mean, this is coming from a very single person, but I think that it's possible to grow in different directions, but still together, still be together. As long as you allow each other that space.
Right? Yeah. No, it takes intentionality for sure. Because you're still two separate humans, and I grow in a way that
you can speak to this better than I can.
Mark and I are working on it right now, or like Wednesday nights. This is our night, because otherwise we run in opposite directions, which is why we thrive as a couple, that we both have passions, but also having that time of like, okay, but when are we planning our life and talking? And so at this point too, I'm like, does everything have to be so planned? Yes, it does. Okay, fine. Get it on the calendar. Let's do this.
Do you believe that one person such as Mark could satisfy all of the different facets of you?
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I think that's also why we thrive, is I'm like, you need friends. I need friends. I need girlfriends. And I think understanding that all of my needs cannot be fulfilled by him, and I don't want them to be fulfilled by him, it broadens my community of support and love, and so
this is a segue, but I believe that we're just generalizing in heterosexual relationships from my own experience, that men oftentimes, when they get into a relationship and they maybe own a business or they work a lot or whatever, they work, they go home, they work, they go home. And those guys, I can tell you from my last 7 years of being solo, is that I kind of lose their attention once they get into a relationship. And I really think men need men, as far as in this category, to bounce their frustrations off of each other, empathize with each other, compete with each other, to kind of like breed about that excellence, to like work harder, to be better at something, encourage each other in our roles, whatever those roles are.
Right.
And it's frustrating to me that men are so unavailable to other men when they are in relationship. Trust me, if my single guys are ready to go at a moment's notice to wherever, whenever, however, but trying to figure out how to make that a mission for myself too, to get men together.
And I think too, though, I mean, we've talked about it before, not just together. And I mean, we all like a beer and to, hang out, but having real conversations. Like
that's right. That's right. Depth.
Yeah.
Depth.
Like the depth of not.
I get depleted by small talk. It wears me out. It does.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I do not care.
The weather today.
Yeah. I mean, we can touch on it for a half a second. It is snowing sloppy right now and it's beautiful, but now we can move on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
If all we have to talk about is the weather, I couldn't even finish that sentence.
But I think though, even in the life coaching world, like I've listened to some, and it's very female focused right now. There's not, and obviously I'm not looking for male life coaches, but just in what I've learned.
I've been coaching you since I met you.
You totally have.
You said I'm kind of like a life coach with my camera.
Yes. But coaches for men, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Men,
yeah.
And more even men being open to wanting to have that. Like, let's tap into that anger. What is underneath that anger? What's going on there? And just being willing to have those emotions and understand that those are emotions. They're not who you are. You just need to flush through whatever's causing them and how you want to feel and all of the things.
Which leads me to another word, is ownership.
Ownership.
We should definitely be like spreading the the idea of ownership. Like when you do feel that anger, when you do feel that hurt, you kind of like, you own it as yourself. Like how did I lead myself to this place? What part did I take in getting myself here?
Yeah.
Instead of always looking for external reasons as to why you are feeling that.
Right.
I'm angry because, it must have been something that happened. That road rage deal, the guy cut me off. That must be why I'm feeling so angry.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, man, I'm really angry. I wonder what in my past or what's led me, what happened, what's led me to, to take on this. No. Just ownership in general. If, it's introspection. It's just like anytime a problem comes up in a relationship, if each person first looked inward and said, man, how did I get here?
Right.
Why don't,
exactly.
We'd have a lot more peace in our relationships and our connections.
Well, even in my time life coaching, the premise there is like believing that you are the expert of your own life. And so many clients come and they want me to give them answers. And I'm like, no. Like we tap in with powerful questions to say, own this. Like, what has happened? How do you feel? How do you want to feel? Where are you going? Where do you want to go? And how can you take action towards that? I can't take action. I can't tell anyone anything that doesn't, it's from my perspective, right? It has to resonate with the client, and watching them like suddenly start to sink in and like, oh, this is appeal to me. And I know I've done this successfully before, and maybe that will work. It's such a beautiful thing to watch people realize that you don't have to outsource your power to other people. You get to own your power, ownership, and drive your own ship, design your own life. Love it. I love it so much.
The best coaches make it your idea. I mean, the best therapists make it your idea.
Well, and I think
it's true.
Yeah.
But I feel like people have a hard time valuing that. So I'm paying you to have me do all the work. Can't you just take my anger away? If I give you $1,000, will you please just take my anger?
Well, with therapy, that's a whole nother thing, right? Like that's healing. With life coaching, it's you designing your life so that in 3 months, you don't need me because you've figured out your own power and that you don't need me. Like I can hold you accountable for 3 months and help you tap into how you want to feel. But in 3 months, you don't need me because you've figured out, I've helped you figure out that you really are the expert of your own life, and you asking other people to give you the answers is outsourcing your power. And what else do we have if we don't have our own power? Boom.
Oh, mic drop.
Okay, so we kind of got a little bit, I mean, honestly, this was an awesome. I knew this would happen. Like, I'm going to give some questions, but really, this is the power in these conversations, is that they're conversations. I wanted to tap into your ahas along your self-discovery journey, especially in line with your business too. So we talked a little bit about Dear World, but just ahas that you've had that have either changed your direction or shaped how you feel about photography and people and really life in general. Big question again,
I mean, I guess we'll just go back to what we accidentally talked about anyway, but authenticity. I joined this men's group a couple of years ago, and it was all about becoming an integrated man. Integrated meaning self-acceptance. I accept all my good parts, my bad parts, my quirky parts, my messy parts, my good parts. I accept all of me as I am today.
Right.
And so that was probably the biggest pivotal moment in my life, was just realizing that I was good enough today as is. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to like me, because we know that's not the case. Right. Not everybody's going to like me, but do I like me? And all this self-love talk and self-care and, you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else properly. All this stuff was going around, and I was just like scoffing at it. It's like, gross.
Yes.
You're all selfish people. But the aha moment was that the selfish people are my favorite nowadays. They're my favorite because I can feel their energy. They are operating from a full cup, and they have an abundance, and they can share it. but they do have healthy boundaries because they care about themselves.
Yeah.
So they will share it, and it is contingent upon, what you do with what they share with you.
Yeah.
And so I have become a very selfish person, and unapologetically. And now I am attracting a new crowd of people that are also very selfish, but we're having deeper, more meaningful conversations and relationships and friendships through our selfishness than I ever did before, thinking that I had to please everybody that I came across. So
selfish, I've used that word forever, and someone like called me out on it. I'm like, but selfish, it sounds like a negative word, but really you're just flipping the definition on its head.
Correct.
Selfish is looking after yourself first so you can show up as the best version of yourself in the world. Right? Like it's not a negative thing. Really, it's just
more self-care related.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah.
I mean, not everything's mine. That's a different kind of selfish than but I like using the word because it perks people's ears up. It's like, selfish, how dare you? Like, yeah, well, it can be a good thing.
Yeah.
So that was an aha moment. Gosh, I got old because the aha moment that I don't have very much time left on this earth, that I want to treat my relationships and connections very much more seriously now. That's why small talk depletes me, because I feel like on the wheel of how I'm going to share my time, energy, money, everything, small talk is like, a little tiny sliver. Yeah. So I'm like, well, after 5 seconds, I'm like, well, that's all the time we have for today, for small talk. And then I move on to my deeper meaning, because you have to think about on your deathbed, what regrets will you have? Right then, what do I wish I would have had more of?
Right.
What do you think it is? Time and people.
Yeah.
Time and people.
Right.
Nothing else. So I admire the people that make a lot of money and have become wealthy and financially independent to where they can operate from a place of comfort and abundance. And a lot of those people I know, they give back in great amounts. Most of those people I know had to give up and sacrifice so much time and energy to get to that place. Some of them had to sacrifice their families. So I am now, like, balance is a word that has been thrown around our whole lives. And it's resonating more with me nowadays. We obviously have to make the tool called money. We have to use it. It's a necessary evil.
Right.
So in balance, how much time and energy are we going to give to making that money? And what time and energy are we going to use in sharing it, spending it, utilizing it or whatever? How are we going to? So I guess I just feel like I'm starting to live life as if it's going to end soon. Yeah. And it may not. I may live another 50 years. Right. It may not end soon for me, but I'm taking it more seriously now.
No, totally.
Even down to my job and the way I make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. No, for sure. Well, and I think, we could all die tomorrow, right now.
All of us.
Right? No, like legitimately. And it sounds like a negative thing, but honestly, I'm thinking about like on my deathbed, what am I going to be so thankful that I did and created? Like, do I want to say that I worked more or do I want to say that I connected with people? Exactly what you're saying. And like lived.
I took the negative spin. That's just like you're taking the positive spin. Of course, I like it.
Just kidding. No, but
I'm just thinking about what I'm thankful for. You're thinking about regrets.
But you get it, right? It's the same.
Yeah, I get it.
You get to the same place where it's like, and I see it's like balance in the life chapter that you're in, right? Right now, I have a 2-year-old. So me like running full steam ahead at like business creation is something that I want to do, but I want to raise my 2-year-old. So he's not 18. And I'm like, oh, well, mom at least created a business. Like, that's not it. And I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, but now I'm forced because I didn't spend my Wednesday nights with my husband or whatever, So it's like balance in each life chapter. Later on in life, I probably, I'll have more free time. Right now, I'm in mom mode. Just enjoying it as life chapters. Like, again, things will change. You might not have the time for it now, but you might in the next chapter, if you design your chapters right.
And maybe you'll never get to that place that you envision. Maybe you'll go some other direction.
Exactly.
You just stay curious, stay open.
Exactly.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to just be floating around in limbo. Limbo is a messy place for me. I don't do well in limbo. Yeah. That's why I say I have to have a direction, a purpose. Doesn't have to be a big purpose. It just has to be a purpose.
No, totally. Right. It keeps you focused and getting out of bed every morning.
I was thinking, when you're like, I'm running a business and I am late on my deadlines every single year this time of year for retouching services, getting prints to people. And so I used to have this fear that if they saw on my social media or something that I did something fun, and they would be thinking, oh, why isn't he getting my photos to me? What the heck is he doing on a mountain? What this guy is, anyway. So that used to bother me a lot, but really I'm re-energizing myself so that I can keep going. I'm fueling up, And so I do apologize a lot in my life. I mean, it's just like, I run at a pace where I forget some things. I apologize for that. Or I'm late on some things. I apologize for that. I am not going to beat myself up too much over it, but we have to have these times where we just go and, you go with the dog and your son and just go walk and get away from whatever life is demanding of you right that moment. Sometimes you need to drop it midstream. Like you are in the midst of it and you got to drop it right then and go replenish.
Totally. No.
And my body will tell me, tells me, you can sit at this computer for another hour. You're not going to accomplish anything. Or you can go replenish yourself and then you'll have another 4 hours after that,
And I think our world is so go, overwork, overachieve, blah, blah. And I think I experienced that with the podcast. Like over the summer, I was like, I am doing too much. And I was doing life coach training and this was becoming a burden. And I was like, no, once my passion starts feeling like a burden, I'm taking a break. So I took a couple of months off over the summer. And then I was super excited to start again in the fall and start having these conversations. And like, do I need to show up every week on the podcast because X, Y, or Z person somehow miraculously has the time? I don't. I want to this is my boundaries. I still believe in it, but this is how it looks for me in this chapter of my life. And it's been so liberating, right? It's so liberating to be like, I'm creating the boundaries here. I don't want it to negatively affect other people, but this is what I have to do to show up first for me so that I can keep showing up for everyone else.
That is freedom.
Yes.
You know what freedom is? That is freedom.
Ooh, yes.
Freedom is for me is more of an internal, it's free from people's expectations, free from their baggage, free from their traumas, free from anything they're projecting onto you.
Totally.
Free from your own self. What do you call it? When you beat yourself up. I was going to say defamation, but that's not what I was looking for. Like deprecation, self-deprecation. Anyway, freedom is when you navigate with grace and you allow things to not go a certain way and you're okay with that.
No,
and you have boundaries and you don't allow everything to come in.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like you want to apologize and say, I'm sorry, your schedule is too crazy. We couldn't line it up, but I'm free. I'm not going to take this on. I'm so sorry.
Right.
You're free. Yeah, I'm free.
I think that goes back to, you have to know yourself. Like, if you don't know that, I get burnt out after this, it's very easy to be like, oh, I should be this way. I should be a harder worker. I'm slacking right now. I'm like, you're tired. Honor what your body needs. Go take a nap. That'll take care of itself later, or it won't, either way, but knowing and respecting and honoring your own needs.
Yeah. Selfish. You're so selfish.
I thrive on selfish.
Yeah. I'm going to need a nap after this.
Awesome. Brady, this has been such a good conversation. I could talk to you forever, but I think at this point, is there anything else that you want to add or anything else you want to talk about before we kind of wrap it up for today?
I'd probably just get us into another 30 minutes. I do have other subjects that I had planned to talk about a few other things that are off the list now. So it's good. We'll just have to have another one.
We will. Yes. Part 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, bringing it back to your business, had such a great experience and my photographs are awesome. How do people find you, Brady?
The best way, it sounds ridiculous, is through my website.
Okay.
The only reason for that is through the website, those inquiries get dumped into my email and the emails are taken care of, not always right away, but they're not overlooked. If it's text or phone call, those things can get buried through personal stuff too. So www.bradycampbellphotography.com. And that is the best way.
And your social is on there too. I mean, I think if anyone wants to look at your photographs.
Yeah, Instagram is the Brady Campbell. Facebook is probably Brady Campbell as well. So yeah, I'm easy to find. You can just Google Brady Campbell. You'll find an Irish dance school, which is not me, and me. So yeah,
I would love to see you at an Irish dance school. That's hilarious.
Maybe our next podcast we'll do a little jig.
Oh, funny. Well, I always like to end with the question: vibrant living conversations, glowing from the inside out. Who are a couple of people in our community that inspire you?
That is one question that was very difficult for me to answer. So many people have touched me in different ways. I can't put 3 people on a pedestal. Like right this very moment, like this is very impactful to me. I can't even think past your face to even think about other people that are, making a difference in my life right now, or inspiring me. I mean, I could name names, but then I would leave other people out, and it's just not. The people that have inspired me the most in my community, they have very little time, a lot of money, and they always make time, and they always are generous. And so I have been seeing these generous people throughout my years of work, and some of them are my clients, and those people inspire me all the time. And if I want to be like somebody, I just want to be generous like that. Those people are so cool, and they still take care of themselves, and they're also manifestors as well, but which that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I love this.
Thank you for joining us today. As you can tell, Brady doesn't just create beautiful photographs. He's creating beauty and interconnection in his own life through reflection and curiosity in himself and others. Not because it's easy, but because he knows that there is deep purpose, meaning, and authenticity beyond the norms of Western life. I hope that you find inspiration to dig deeper and ask yourself and others powerful questions to stretch the boundaries of the status quo. As I continue this journey of discovery and holistic living, I hope you join me as I get to know more awesome, inspiring people in this Inland West region. You can find me, my coaching, podcast, and social media at gemmaputty.com. Please feel free to share, and let me know who you'd like to hear from in the future. Sending all the love, light, and vibrancy. Till next time.